Hi everyone, welcome to the Brainfuse webinar recording for the North Carolina State University program. My name is Jamie Wallace. I'm from Brainfuse and I'll be conducting the webinar today. Basically we're just going to go through all the different services that will be offered to your students through Brainfuse. So we are looking at right here the main page for the Brainfuse service. So we sent you the link that will be posted somewhere wherever you choose to post it. That's where your students will go. They'll click on the link and sign in, and once they do that, they will get to this page right here. So on our main page, we basically have three different tabs here. Expert Help is the first one, sort of the default option here. And we also have a Study tab and a Collaborate tab with some additional options in each of those. So starting in the Expert Help tab here, we have a number of different buttons. I'm just going to work my way down the page, click on each of the options, and I'll show you exactly how everything here works. So starting with the first button here in the Expert Help section, we have the Live Help option. So I'll actually touch on this one and the one right below it first, just skills building. So both of these options here will connect you with a live tutor. The difference is that the Live Help option here is usually used by a student who has a specific question, like a homework problem, or a practice problem, or a test they got back they'd like to go over, some sort of specific problem they'd like to get some help with. That student would log in through Live Help. The skills building option is for a student who is just looking for general help on a skill or a topic, something they're learning in class, maybe having some difficulty with. They can go here to get some extra help. So if I start by clicking on the Live Help button, to connect with one of our live tutors, all you need to do is enter a grade level here in the first drop-down menu. And then in the second one, you choose the subject. And then you just click on the Get Live Help button to connect with a live tutor. You can also click right here if you'd like a Spanish-speaking tutor. They're available for the same hours as our English-speaking tutors, and those hours for the North Carolina State University TRIO program, those are from 2 p.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. So 2 p.m. to midnight, you can access our live tutors. All the other parts of our service that do not involve actually connecting with a live tutor, those are all available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's only the live tutoring options that have limited hours. The skills building button right below Live Help, if we click on that one, you'll see the page looks very similar to the Live Help page that we just saw. So to connect with a live tutor, all we have to do again is enter a grade level and then a subject. And then we have a third drop-down menu here on this page where you can select the specific skill that you'd like to work on. So if you choose, in general, 10th grade math here, you'll find a number of different lessons that we have available, all listed here. So you can find the one that you'd like to get some help with. If you can't find the topic you're looking for help with, you can always just click on the Get Live Help button to connect with a tutor, and then just manually tell the tutor what it is you'd like to get some help with. So again, the hours to connect with our live tutors here will be from 2 p.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. So we will come back and look at a live session. We're going to do that towards the end of the webinar today. So that'll be one of the last things we look at. I'm just going to go through all of the other services we offer before we do that. So let's go over here now to to Learn Now. So the Learn Now button right here, this basically allows you to browse through all of the curriculum materials that we have by subject. So if a student is in an algebra class, an Algebra 1 class, they can go into Learn Now, choose Algebra 1, and browse through all the different topics that we have there to look through the lessons that we have created, any tests as well will all be included there, links to helpful websites, things like that. So when I click on the Learn Now button, this page tells you a little bit more about Learn Now, and then I just choose from the different topics available here at the top of the page. So let's say I'm a high school student and I need help with an Algebra 1 topic. So we have all these different topics listed here in different subjects. Right up at the top here is Algebra 1. So if I choose that, then within Algebra 1 we have all these different subtopics here. So let's say I want to choose properties of real numbers. And then you'll see within this topic here we have lessons. We also have videos here, so you can click on the lesson just to look through our text lesson on that topic. Our video lessons were all created by us, just like the text lessons. Those have audio, and they'll essentially walk the student through a video lesson on that subject. Oftentimes you'll also find helpful links here and anything else that we have available that would help a student with that particular topic. So we have this available for a number of different topics, as we just saw. So if I go back, you'll see here within high school we have math, reading, writing, different sciences, social studies. So there's a lot of options here for most standard subjects. So that was the Learn Now button back here on the main page. We looked at skills building. So let's go on now to the Writing Lab. The Writing Lab is one of our most popular services. Basically, it allows a student to send in a piece of writing that they're working on to have it reviewed by one of our tutors. So a student's writing a paper, an essay, something like that for a class, they can send it in here to have one of our writing tutors review it. Now, we're not an editing service, so our goal in providing feedback to the student is essentially to give them comments and suggestions and some ideas for how they can improve their paper. So it will all require the student to go back and actually make the changes to their paper. So we're not fixing everything up for the student. We're not going in and fixing all the grammar errors, although we will make note of the major grammar errors, but we'll leave that to the student to fix. So the student will always have to go back and use what we give them to actually improve their paper. So the way it works is when you click on the Writing Lab button here, you'll follow the steps listed right here, just 2 steps, to send in that document to us. So let's go ahead and do that with a sample here. So if I click on Browse, I just locate the file on my computer that I want to send in. So I'll attach a sample here that I have. Pretty much any standard document type can be sent to us. You then have a comments box right here where you can type out anything you'd like to say to the tutor. So you can type out any questions you have, what the assignment instructions were. Maybe you're only looking for help with the introduction. You can send that in here in the comments box. And then when you're ready, just click on the Submit button. So that sends the document in to us. One of our tutors will begin working on it as soon as possible. And as the message says right here, we'll send that back within 1 business day at the most. But as soon as you send a paper in, a tutor might be available, start working on it, and send that back within a couple hours. But at most, it'll come back in 1 business day. Even for a paper sent in, though, on a Friday night or Saturday morning, the majority of the time, nearly all the time, you'll get that back within 24 hours. We just say 1 business day to be safe. You'll see this message here also directs you to the Message Center. So that's where you'll go to retrieve the document that we send back. So the Message Center is right here at the top of the page. Right here is the document we just sent in. When the tutor sends back their review, that'll show up directly below the submission right here. I happen to have an example here of what our review will look like. So we'll always include our rubric form on the top, which is what we're looking at here. The rubric will have a number of different sections here that the tutor will fill in with comments about this particular paper. Then if you scroll down below the rubric, you'll get to the actual paper that the student submitted, and our tutor will include comments embedded within the paper itself as well. So the comments here in the blue bold text are from our tutor. So that's what our review will look like. Back on the main page here, that was the Writing Lab. The next button down here is Send Question. And this one works exactly the same way as the Writing Lab that we just looked at, except you can use this one to send in any academic questions that you might have. So you can log in with a live tutor and ask your question there, but you can also use the Send Question button, either outside of the live tutoring hours, when the live tutors aren't available, you can send in a question right here, or if you just don't want to connect with a live tutor or don't have time to, you can send in a question here. So to do that, you just click right here and choose the grade level and then the subject. Let's say I have a biology question. I can enter that right here. I type out my question. I can also attach a document if I'd like to. That's optional. And then I click on Submit. So again, that gets sent in to us. One of our tutors will respond within 1 business day at the most. But especially for questions sent in here, we'll usually respond much more quickly than 1 business day. So you'll have to go to the Message Center to retrieve our response. That's where it'll appear when the tutor sends it to you. Just like with the writing, where we don't actually do the work for the student, we're never going to give out answers to questions submitted here. So if a student sends in a math problem, the tutor will most likely go through a similar problem, with different numbers, make it slightly different than what the student sent in, and show the student how you do that type of problem. Or the tutor might give some hints or some resources, suggestions. If it's a multi-step problem, they might do the first step and then give some hints for the next step. Something like that. We're never going to actually do the problem for the student, though. Back on the main page here, that was the Send Question button. Our next option here is the Language Lab. So basically this is where a student would go if they are working on learning Spanish. So Spanish is currently the only language we offer here in the Language Lab. So you'll see in the drop-down menu here, Spanish is the only option. So you can choose that, click on Connect with Tutor, and that will connect you with a live tutor who can help you with learning the Spanish language. We also saw in the Live Help and Skills Building buttons here, if I click on Live Help, for example, we have this checkbox here that you can click on, and that will also get you a Spanish-speaking tutor. But this option is usually used by a native speaker, so someone who wants Algebra 2 help from a Spanish-speaking tutor. Whereas the Language Lab button here is usually for someone whose main goal or purpose is to learn the Spanish language. And then the last button down here at the bottom is what we call our Adult Learning Center. So if you have any adult students, they might go here to get some help. So we have a lot of the same options available here in the Adult Learning Center that we've already seen, but we also have some additional services. So here on the right, underneath where it says Lifelong Learning, these are basically some of the same services that we've seen back on the main page, or will see in a few minutes. So we have live tutoring and skills building, where adult learners can connect with a live tutor. We also have the Writing Lab, where they can send in a paper to have it reviewed. 24/7 help, which is the same thing as the Send Question button. So they can send in a question here any time of day. And then we also have a test center, so that will allow adult learners to take academic practice tests. And we also have a test center back on the main page that we'll see in just a couple minutes. So these services here work the same way as the ones we've already seen or will be seeing shortly. These options here on the left are some additional options, though, for any adult learners. We have a button to help people preparing for the GED test. So we have study materials, live tutors available, and also practice tests available, all for the GED test. Then we have the same options available for the U.S. citizenship test. So we have study materials, live tutors, and then practice tests. Below the U.S. citizenship test button, we have Write a Winning Resume. So if you have any adults who are going back to school, but they're also looking for a job, something like that, we offer help with their resume here. So we have online resources for resumes. We have an Upload Resume button right here in the middle. This works exactly like the Writing Lab that we saw before, where you could send in a piece of writing to have it reviewed. If you click on the Upload Resume button here, you can do the exact same thing with a copy of your resume. So you just attach the file here, add any comments, and send that in to us. We have resume tutors available who would be happy to provide some help as far as formatting, the content of the resume. They'll help make the resume look more professional, things like that. We're also happy to help with cover letters here through the Resume Lab. And then we also have live tutors available here for resume help. So you can log in and ask any questions you have about your resume. Below our resume button here in the Adult Learning Center, we also have a Microsoft Office help button. So we offer help here with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint up to the most recent versions of those programs. So we have some online resources here, including some tutorials you can take on these programs. And then on the right, we have live tutors available. So you can log in and ask any questions you have about Excel, PowerPoint, or Word. And then our last button here in the Adult Learning Center is for career resources. So this sort of goes along with the resume button. It's related to the job search process. So for any adult learners who are looking for jobs, we have here in career resources two different lists of websites they can use to find available jobs to apply to. So we have a nationwide resources option. So these are some national job search websites that your students can use to find jobs to apply to. And then if we go back, there's a local resources option as well. And we'd be happy to add any additional links here if you'd like to email those to us, we can add those to this page for you if there are any other resources that might be good for your students to have access to. So that's the Adult Learning Center and all the options we have here. So let me just go back to the home page. So we're back here where we started. So that was the Adult Learning Center. So those are all the options that we have here in our first tab in the Expert Help option. You'll see down at the bottom here it lists the hours. The reason it's different is just so I could do this recording. So I had to change the hours for today. But when your students log in, it'll say Sunday to Saturday, so 7 days, 2 p.m. to 11:59 or midnight. So let's move on now to the Study tab. That's the second option here next to Expert Help. We just have two options here in the Study tab. The first one right here is the Test Center, which I actually mentioned before. We had the Test Center within the Adult Learning Center as well. But this is our regular Test Center for students. So if I click on this button, this is our Test Center page. So here on the left, we have our state-aligned tests. So you can just choose a grade level and then a subject, and you can take a general practice test in that subject. So once you take a test, you'll be able to go back and look through the questions. You'll get a score, but of course it's just for practice. You can retake our tests as many times as you'd like, and for most topics we'll have multiple tests available. So that's the state-aligned test here on the left. On the right, we also have national tests. So here we offer ACT and SAT practice tests, if that's relevant for any of your students. So let's say you want to take an ACT math quiz. You can choose that. Just click on the Take a Test button, and that will assign you the ACT math quiz right here. Once you've taken any quizzes, your test results will also be saved on this page right here, which you can access anytime by clicking on the My Tests button right up here at the top. So this link will take you to your test results page here. So again, once you've taken a test, there'll be a button saved right next to the test on this page here that will let you retake that test if you'd like to. If you'd like to take another test on that same subject, you'll just go back to the Test Center page and request that subject again. So if you've already taken Quiz 1 here for math, for ACT math, it would assign you ACT math Quiz 2. A lot of students like to take our practice tests and then they'll log in with one of our live tutors to go over the questions they answered incorrectly. So our tutors are able to access the student's test results. If the student logs in and says, I just took this ACT math quiz, can we go over the questions I got wrong? Our tutor was able to access their results and then go over those questions with the student in our online classroom. If we go back to the home page here, and again we'll click on the Study tab. So that was the Test Center that we just looked at. And next to that we have Flashbulb. So Flashbulb is essentially an online flashcard service. So if a student has to do any memorizing, of terms, vocabulary words, anything like that, they can use our Flashbulb service. So once you enter a set of flashcards here online, they're saved and you can log back in anytime to view those and practice with them. And there's a lot of additional options here in Flashbulb that will really help make memorizing easier for students. And it's much more useful than just creating hard copies of flashcards. So if we click on that button, this is our Flashbulb page. Most students will click on the Create Now button here on the left to enter their own flashcards. We also have all these different topics over here, so you can click on these topics and access sets of flashcards that other people have created. However, these are not vetted for accuracy, so they may not be accurate. And of course, they probably won't cover the exact words that you're looking to work on, which is why I say most students use the Create Now button here. I'm going to click on one of the topics here just to show you what a set of flashcards looks like. So this right here is one set of flashcards. So you can then click on each of these different icons down here to do something different with those cards. For example, the first button here will just show me the flashcards. I can work through them. There's the first word and the definition. You can put it in the correct pile if you know that one. Let's say I don't know the definition of mercurial. I can put that into the incorrect pile. Then there's a number of games you can play here as well. For example, you just click on the crossword puzzle button, and the system creates a crossword puzzle out of the words that you entered with the definitions over here as the clues. There's a number of other games available as well. You can take a quiz or a test You can print the cards out if you do want hard copies of them. So there's a lot of options here to help make memorizing a little bit easier for students. Okay, we're back here on the main page again. And within the Study tab, those were the two options that we have here, the Test Center and Flashbulb. So let's move on now to the third and final tab here, which is Collaborate. Again, here we just have two options. I'm actually going to start on the right with Brainwave. So basically Brainwave gives you a smartboard where you can type out or draw whatever you like on that board, and then it creates essentially a video recording of whatever you put on that board. So the easiest way to explain what Brainwave is just to show you, to create a sample here. So this demo student here, has not created any brainwaves. If they had, you would see them saved right here. So there aren't any saved yet. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Create a New Brainwave button right here. This window opens up. This tells you a little bit more about the Brainwave tool. And then when I'm ready to start, I just click on the Begin Recording button down here at the bottom. So we call this our Brainwave Notepad. It looks just like our online classroom that you'll see when you connect with our tutors. So we'll see that in just a few minutes. But basically now we're not connected with a tutor. We're just using the notepad here. And essentially this window is being recorded. So anything I put on the board will be included in this nice video recording. So a good example of what you might use this for is to show how to solve a multi-step math problem, or maybe how to balance a chemistry equation, something like that. And these can be created either by students, or they could also be created by tutors, faculty members, teachers, professors, anything like that. And then once you have these created, they can actually be sent to other people. So I'll go over that in just a minute. But to actually create one here, you have all these different buttons you can use. If you put your mouse over each one, it'll tell you what that button does. So let's say I have a problem that involves a graph and maybe finding the slope of a line. So I can choose our graph option here and click and drag a graph onto the board. You can double click on the graph icon here or on the number line icon, and that will let you change the X and Y values. We then have a shapes tool right here, and one of the shapes here is an arrow, so I can use that to add a line to the graph, and then maybe I want to go through the steps to find the slope of that line. So I can use the text button right here and just click anywhere on the board and type. So I could go through all the steps to find the slope of that line. You can also type in the chat box down here if you'd like to include larger blocks of text. This part of the window will also be recorded. And then when I'm done, I just click on the Stop Recording button down here at the bottom. So I type out a name for that recording. Let's call it Slope Demo, and then I click on Save. So that will save the brainwave. That's now saved right here. We have a My Brainwaves button up here at the top, so you can always click right there to access your brainwaves page. We also have the Brainwave Library tab right here. So this will let you search through brainwaves that other people have created, sort of the same way you could search through those flashcards that we have. So you just type in a keyword and see if there's a brainwave created on a topic that you're working on. Back in the brainwaves page right here, this is the one we just created, so I can click on the envelope icon over here to share that brainwave with somebody else. So I'll just have to enter their email address, and it will email a link to them that they can click on to view that recording. So these can be created by a student and sent to fellow students, or again, like I mentioned before, they could even be created by a tutor or a teacher or a professor, and then sent to their students. You know, someone who's creating these sort of as a teaching tool. Or they can just be, created by a student and used for that student's own benefit. So they can click on the play button here and rewatch that recording. So if we go back into the Collaborate tab here, that was the Brainwave option. Right next to that, we have the Meet option that I skipped over briefly. So basically, Meet allows you to schedule an online meeting with whoever you'd like to invite to the session. It uses our online classroom, so just like when you connect with one of our live tutors, you'll connect with our tutor in our online classroom. However, here in a Meet session, you're not connecting with our tutors. You're only connecting with the people that you invite to that session. So it's essentially like having, as it says here on the button, a virtual study room. So you might host a study group here with a group of students who are preparing for a test. Or again, this could even be used by someone who's teaching students. So by a tutor, a teacher, a professor, someone like that could create one of these sessions to give some extra help to students outside of the classroom. The nice thing about the Meet feature is that everyone connects here in our online classroom, even though they're actually all physically in different locations. So if I click on the Meet button here, this is how I schedule a session. So you have to enter the email addresses here of everybody you would like to invite, and you put in the date and time, a brief description of the meeting, and then click on Send. Once you create that session, you have the My Calendar option up here at the top of the page. So that's where that session would be saved. So right here is one that I created earlier. If I wanted to start that session, I would just click on the Enter button over here on the right. As far as how this works, the classroom you use, again, is very similar to the one when you connect with one of our live tutors. So I will show you the Meet session here and what this looks like, but I want to first connect for a regular live session and show you that first. So we'll come back here and look at Meet after we look at a regular live session. Okay, so those are basically all of the buttons that we have in these three different tabs here: Expert Help, Study, and Collaborate. So those are all the different services that are offered. We have these different options available here at the top of the page that let you access different pieces of stored information. So I've touched on a lot of them, not on all of them yet. We looked at my calendar. We looked at my brainwaves. Past sessions I'll get to when we look at our live session. So essentially your live tutoring sessions are recorded and saved right here. The message center we saw is where any papers or questions that you send in will be saved, as well as where the tutor's response will be sent to. My tests is where your test results are saved. And then my Cloud Pack right here, this is essentially a storage device. So if you click on this window here opens up. This Cloud Pack has not been used, so I can add any folders here into the Cloud Pack that I'd like. Let's say I want to add one for English papers. Maybe I have another folder for math class notes. And then once I create all the folders I'd like, I can upload documents into these folders, and they'll be saved there. You can also upload links. You can also create documents directly from here. You essentially have a word editing tool, sort of like Microsoft Word. So you can use my Cloud Pack to take notes in class or to create a document, and then that will be saved here. But the nice thing about Cloud Pack is that once you have documents saved here in your Cloud Pack window, when you're connected in our live sessions, you can access those documents and essentially upload them onto our whiteboard and share them with your tutor or with your fellow students if you're connected in a Meet session. So I'll mention that again when we connect for the live session, which I'm going to do right now essentially. Okay, so for the live session, we saw a number of different areas throughout our service where you can connect with our live tutors, but probably the most used option is the first button here that we looked at, the Live Help button. So if I go ahead and click that, and then I just enter a grade level and a subject, let's say I choose 10th grade and writing. I go ahead and I click on the Get Live Help button here. This is our online classroom here that's opening up. So you'll always see the same window here, no matter what subject you choose. You always get the same online classroom here. So normally the session would begin with a greeting from the tutor, and then the tutor would try to figure out what exactly it is that you need help with. For this session today, I've just set it up so that I connect with myself, so we don't actually have another tutor here. I'm just also logged in as a tutor. So you have the tutor's name right here, and also over here in the participants box. So if I wanted to type something back to the tutor as the student, so this is what the student would see, I just click right down here at the bottom, and I can click and type whatever I'd like. So this is essentially an instant messaging feature down here in our chat box. It's where most of the back and forth communication occurs. It's really one of two main parts to our online classroom. So we have the chat box, and then up at the top here we have our whiteboard. So this is essentially a smart board. It can be used for a number of different things. So I'll go over some of those right now. I just want to note first though that the audio option here will always be deactivated, so you can't use it when you're connected with our live tutors. So everything will be done through our instant messaging chat box and through the whiteboard up here. In a Meet session, though, in one of those sessions where you invite whoever you'd like to have in that session, so you're not connected with our tutors, in those sessions, you will be able to use audio. Okay, so getting back to the whiteboard here, we have all those lessons created. So if you log in through the skills building button, and that's where you had the option of choosing a specific topic or lesson to work on. So we have all those lessons available. If you choose one or request one from the tutor will load that lesson right into our whiteboard space here. The lesson will be broken down into slides that fit nicely onto the page here, and the tutor will work through that with you. Our lessons are essentially like those in a textbook, so that'll go over the basics of the topic and then some sample and practice questions. This whiteboard space can be used for other things as well, though. Our tutors have access to lots of different resources in addition to lessons that they can load onto the board here. Sample problems. For someone who's looking for help on a resume, they can load our sample resumes, our resume templates, and lots of other materials as well that our tutors are aware of and know that we offer. So if it would benefit the student, the tutor can load that into the whiteboard here. But of course, a lot of the time, a student just logs in and they have a homework problem or something that they need help with. So that is another way the whiteboard space here is used. So the student might type out a question here on the whiteboard to get some help from the tutor. So we have all these different buttons here on the left-hand side. They're the same ones that we saw within the Brainwave tool, which is where you made that little video recording using our whiteboard. So each of these will let you do something different on the board. It works just like Microsoft Paint, or a program similar to that. So if I choose the pencil right here, that'll just let me draw on the board freehand. The eraser will let me erase. The ABC button will let me click anywhere on the board and then type. The font button will let me change the font style and size that I'm typing in. Color wheel will let me change the color of the next thing that I put on the board. This is a very useful button right here. It's paste text or image. So anything that can be copied and pasted can be pasted right onto our whiteboard. So you just copy it, put your cursor on the board where you'd like to paste it, and then click on the paste button. I can paste text or images or a math problem from an online source, anything like that. The straight line tool, let me just change the color again. Straight line tool can be used to underline or to draw figures. Then we have the number line and graph option here that we looked at earlier. So you can choose either of those and click and drag it onto the board. We have our shapes option. Let me change the color again here. And then I can choose a shape, and you can put that on the board, in case you need that for a geometry problem, or anything else you might use it for. The undo arrow right here will just remove the most recent thing you put on the board. So you can click on that, and you'll essentially just move backwards. The math button gives you a long list of math symbols if you need any of those. SCI does the same thing for science symbols. We then have a superscript and a subscript button in case you need those for a math problem or chemistry equation. And then down at the bottom, you can clear the entire board. Up at the top here, we have some additional options. Here we first have a print button. So that will let you print out the whiteboard here, in case you go over a very difficult problem and the tutor was really able to help you. You want a hard copy of that, you can print it out. However, you don't need to do that because you can always go to your past sessions option. If I just minimize the online classroom there for a minute, you can click on the past sessions button right here, and all of your live tutoring sessions are automatically recorded and saved right here on this page. So you can essentially rewatch a recording of your live tutoring sessions here. You can also click on the orange icon over here, which says convert to a brainwave. So that'll convert this recording file into a brainwave file. So that would then be saved here in your brainwaves. And if you remember with brainwaves, you have the option of sending those to somebody else. So you could send a session recording here to somebody else. You can send it to yourself so you have access to it in your email rather than having to sign into your Brainfuse account. Anything like that you can do with the brainwave feature here. If we go back into the online classroom, you also have this envelope icon right here. This will also let you get access to the session recording from your email. You just click on the button here, type in either your own email address or somebody else's, and that will send a link to the session recording. So you can send it to yourself, and then you'll have access to that recording from your email rather than from your Brainfuse account. This button right here says Send File, so this lets you upload a document directly to the tutor that you're connected with. So if you log in with a writing tutor and you want to send them a paper, you can click on the Send File button right here and send that document to them. Any standard document type can be sent. And then our last button up here is the CloudPak Explorer. So CloudPak was the storage device that we saw before. You can then access your own CloudPak right here and open up any documents that you've saved there in your CloudPak right onto the whiteboard. So if you have a paper saved there, you can upload it onto the board here, and your tutor would be able to look that over with you. So you can use the CloudPak option here to share something with your tutor. You can also use the Send File button, or you can also use the Copy and Paste button. So those are really the three ways you would share larger amounts of information with the tutor that you're connected with. That's essentially how the regular tutoring sessions here work. I'm going to close this window now. You'll see you get an end of session survey here, so your students can fill this out if they choose to after their sessions with us. And then the last thing I want to do today is show you one of the Meet sessions that we looked at earlier. So Meet was the button right here in Collaborate with the Meet option. So you schedule that in advance. You invite whoever you'd like to attend that Meet session in our private virtual study room, as it says here. Once you have one of those scheduled, it's saved here in the My Calendar button. So right here is one that I scheduled earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Enter button here and just quickly show you how one of these Meet sessions works. So you'll see the window here is very similar to the one that we were just looking at. Really the only differences are the additional buttons up here at the top of the screen, and those are only available to the moderator of this session. So that's essentially the person who schedules it. So the one who schedules it will have some additional buttons. Otherwise, the buttons on the left here are the same. You still have the chat box and the whiteboard, and the participants in the session will just see the same online classroom as the one we just saw previously. So they won't see all these additional buttons here at the top. Most of these buttons up here are grayed out and not even active, so that won't even really be used by the moderator of the session. So there's just a couple differences between a regular live tutoring session and one of these Meet sessions. One is, of course, that you can invite any number of people to these sessions. So it's not going to be just a tutor and a student. You might invite 5 friends to this to host a study group, or a teacher or a tutor might host one of these sessions and invite a few of their students. The other difference I already mentioned is the audio option. So audio will be enabled here. So for everyone, assuming everyone has audio capabilities on their computer, they would all be able to speak back and forth to each other. Also, anything put on the whiteboard or in the chat box would, of course, be visible to everybody in the session. So this would be essentially a communal whiteboard. The one final difference I want to highlight is relevant if the session is being run by a tutor or a teacher, someone who's giving help to the other participants in the session. They have the option of right-clicking on any of their names here in the participants box, and you'll have the option of giving a private whiteboard to each student. So that will essentially create another tab up here next to our public tab. You'll have one for each student that you enable a private whiteboard for. And basically that will allow the tutor or the teacher who's running the session to give extra one-on-one help to that student. So if you have 3 students connected in the session here, maybe one of them is struggling and falling behind, you can give that one student a private whiteboard, and then anything put on that whiteboard would only be visible by that one student and by the moderator. So it allows someone who's teaching to give some extra help to one or more of the students connected in the session. Other than those options, though, the Meet sessions here will essentially work exactly the same way as the regular online classroom that we just saw previously. Okay, so those are essentially all the options here within Brainfuse that your students will have access to. I hope the webinar was useful. If you have any additional questions, the best way to contact us would be to send an email to info@brainfuse.com. That email's checked constantly throughout the day, so we'd be able to get back to you fairly quickly. And we'd be happy to take any questions that anyone has. Okay, thanks everyone for attending and for watching. Have a great day.